Sagittarius. When the sky bursts with light, so will your destiny. There comes a moment, dear Sagittarius, when the universe feels as if it has been holding its breath just for you. A moment when the night sky, usually so quiet and steady, suddenly bursts open with light, reminding you that your destiny is never a dim spark, but a radiant firework waiting for its perfect time to ignite. You, the archer of the zodiac, were never meant for shadows. You were born to chase horizons, to stretch beyond boundaries, and to become a living embodiment of expansion, hope, and vision. This season, the cosmos whispers that your journey is about to shift. The light you have been waiting for, the sign you secretly prayed for, is finally breaking through. As you read these words, allow yourself to breathe deeply and open your heart to possibility. Feel the warmth of the universe aligning with your courage, reminding you that no matter how many setbacks you've endured, your story is far from over. It is only beginning to shine brighter. This is not just another turning of the page. This is the start of a brand new chapter, drenched in meaning and brilliance. If these words touch something within you, remember to like, share, and subscribe, so we can continue walking together through the mysteries of the stars. Your destiny, Sagittarius, is written in light, and that light is ready to rise. Gate 1: the call of expansion and the courage to answer. Sagittarius, the story of your destiny always begins with expansion. You are the archer, bow in hand, gazing into the endless horizon, never satisfied with walls that confine or roads that end too soon. To you, life is not merely about survival but about discovery, and this restless urge within your soul is not a flaw. It is the divine compass that has always been guiding you toward your truth. Yet expansion is not without cost. Many Sagittarians find that the very desire to reach further can bring them moments of deep loneliness, because not everyone understands the hunger of a spirit that wants to soar where others fear to step. Think of the countless times in your life when you felt the call to leave what was familiar. Perhaps it was choosing a career path that seemed unconventional, moving to a new city or even a new country, or walking away from a relationship that no longer honored your growth. Others might have labeled you impulsive, but deep within, you knew you were answering a call that could not be ignored. Expansion for you is not about recklessness. It is about honoring the truth that your soul cannot remain small. Let us take the example of a woman I once worked with, a Sagittarius in her mid-30s, who had spent years in a job that paid well but drained her spirit. Everyone around her urged her to stay, praising the security and stability it provided. But her nights were restless, her heart heavy with the quiet ache of untapped potential. One evening, after a conversation with herself in the mirror, she whispered, "I cannot shrink any longer." That very month, she left the job and began her own creative business, something she had always dreamed of but never dared to pursue. The early months were difficult, yet for the first time she felt alive, her spirit burning with purpose. Within 2 years, her venture not only sustained her financially, but also brought her a community of kindred souls who valued her vision. This is the power of Sagittarius expansion. When you choose to answer the call of growth, the universe aligns resources, opportunities, and people who help you thrive. Yet answering this call requires courage, because expansion always comes with risk. The leap into the unknown terrifies many, but for Sagittarius, the true danger lies not in risk but in stagnation. The longer you silence your desire to grow, the heavier your spirit becomes, until joy feels like a memory. The cosmos is reminding you now. It is far better to leap and learn than to remain in regret. Courage for you is not the absence of fear but the willingness to walk forward, even when your hands tremble. There is also another layer to your expansion. It is not only physical, but spiritual and intellectual. You are a seeker of wisdom, Sagittarius. Books, conversations, journeys, experiences. These are your sacred tools for growth. Unlike others who may find comfort in routine, you thrive when your mind is stretched and your beliefs are challenged. You are not here to accept truth at face value. You are here to explore it, to wrestle with it, and to make it your own. Every time you step into new knowledge, whether through study, travel, or inner reflection, you are answering your destiny's call. But let us also honor the reality. Expansion often asks you to let go. The path forward sometimes requires you to release what is safe but stagnant. It may mean loosening your grip on a friendship that has turned one-sided, or ending a chapter in your career that no longer ignites passion. This release is painful but necessary, for a vessel cannot be filled with new waters if it clings desperately to what is already stale. You must trust that the universe does not take without giving. Every ending creates the space for a new beginning that honors who you are becoming. I recall another Sagittarius, a man in his late 40s, who had built a life that looked perfect on the outside. He had a steady career, a family, a beautiful home. Yet deep inside he was suffocating, for he had abandoned his love for writing decades earlier. One day, almost as if the cosmos cracked open above him, he experienced a health scare that shook him awake. In the hospital bed he thought, "If I leave this world tomorrow, will I have truly lived?" That question became his turning point. Slowly he restructured his life, carving out space each day to write, to pour his soul onto paper. Within 5 years he published his first book, a work that touched countless lives. Expansion had called him all along, but it took courage to finally answer. So I ask you now, Sagittarius, what is calling you? Where is your spirit restless, aching for more? You may already know the answer, even if you've tried to bury it under practicality or fear. Perhaps it is time to start that project you keep postponing, to embark on the journey you've been daydreaming about, or to finally speak the truth you've been silencing. The burst of light that the cosmos promises is not something that happens outside of you. It ignites within the moment you choose to step forward into your own courage. When the sky bursts with light, it does not ask whether you are ready. It simply illuminates your path, reminding you that destiny favors the brave. The invitation before you now is simple yet profound. Trust your expansion. The horizon is wide, the bow is in your hands, and the arrow is ready. Aim not for safety but for truth, and know that each courageous step you take sets into motion the unfolding of your brightest destiny. Gate 2. The power of truth and the freedom it brings. For you, Sagittarius, truth is not just a value, it is a lifeline. While some signs may tolerate illusions or half-truths for the sake of peace, you feel them like stones pressing against your chest. Dishonesty, whether from others or within yourself, is unbearable to you. For your spirit thrives only in the presence of authenticity. You were born under the influence of Jupiter, the planet of wisdom and expansion, and because of this, your path to destiny is deeply tied to the pursuit of truth. When you align with what is real, you flourish. When you compromise or pretend, you wilt. From a young age, you may have felt the tension between living according to your inner truth and conforming to expectations. Many Sagittarians grow up feeling the weight of shoulds pressed upon them. You should choose a secure career. You should stay close to home. You should quiet your adventurous spirit to make others comfortable. And yet, despite these pressures, a part of you always resists. Sometimes this resistance creates conflict, misunderstandings, even criticism. But deep down you know that betraying your truth would be the greatest wound of all. Take, for instance, the story of a Sagittarius man in his early 20s, who was born into a family of doctors. Everyone expected him to follow the same path, to wear the white coat and continue the legacy. But his heart was not in medicine. His heart belonged to art, to painting the landscapes and faces that haunted his imagination. For years he tried to please his family, attending pre-med courses and studying late into the night, but each step felt like walking deeper into someone else's life. One day, exhausted and on the brink of collapse, he confessed to his mother, "I cannot live this lie anymore." Though it took time and painful conversations, he eventually chose the path of art. The years ahead were not easy, but he found joy, meaning, and eventually recognition in his work. The moment he embraced his truth, freedom poured into his life. Sagittarius, your destiny always requires this kind of honesty. Not only with others but especially with yourself. How often do you silence your inner knowing because it feels inconvenient, or because it might disappoint someone? How often do you hide behind busyness, pretending you don't hear the whisper of your soul urging you to choose differently? Your truth is not here to punish you. It is here to liberate you. And though following it may create temporary discomfort, it always leads to long-term peace. There is another dimension to this. Speaking your truth. Sagittarius energy carries a prophetic quality, a voice that does not just echo personal feelings, but often articulates truths that others need to hear. Perhaps this is why you are often drawn to teaching, writing, public speaking, or simply being the friend who tells it like it is. Your words have power not because they are loud, but because they carry sincerity. When you speak from the heart, You awaken something in others, sometimes shaking them out of denial or fear. I remember a Sagittarius woman in her 40s who had spent years in a marriage that looked stable from the outside but was quietly suffocating her. She endured in silence, convincing herself it was easier to keep the peace. But one day her teenage daughter asked, "Mom, why don't you ever smile anymore?" That question pierced her, and she realized the greatest lesson she could give her daughter was not endurance but truth. With courage, she voiced her reality, admitted her unhappiness, and made the difficult decision to leave. It was painful, yes, but also freeing. In time, she rediscovered her laughter, and her daughter grew up witnessing the strength of a woman who chose honesty over pretense. Truth, Sagittarius, is the foundation of your freedom, and freedom is what your soul craves most. Without it, your fire dims, with it, you blaze. Every time you compromise your truth for acceptance, you place invisible chains around your spirit. And yet, every time you choose honesty, even in the smallest of ways, you unshackle yourself. Destiny for you does not unfold in a prison of pretense. It blooms in the open field of authenticity, where your heart and your choices align. But truth also demands responsibility. Sometimes Sagittarians fall into the trap of bluntness, mistaking raw honesty for wisdom. There is a difference between speaking truth to heal and speaking truth to harm. Your words are arrows, and like the archer you are, you must aim carefully. When used with compassion, your truth becomes medicine, guiding others gently toward clarity. When used carelessly, it can wound. This is part of your soul's growth. Learning that truth is not just about what is said, but how and when it is shared. The freedom that truth brings is not only external but internal. When you stop lying to yourself about what you feel, what you want, or what you deserve, you reclaim pieces of your soul that you once abandoned. This reclamation is powerful. It makes you whole. Imagine the relief of finally admitting to yourself that you want more than survival, that you long for joy, for meaning, for adventure. Imagine the peace that comes when you stop denying your heart's longing and begin to honor it, even in small steps. That peace is waiting for you, Sagittarius, in the arms of your truth. So here is the invitation. Be radically honest with yourself right now. Where are you pretending? Where are you minimizing your desires, excusing someone else's behavior, or ignoring the call of your own spirit? The universe is urging you to strip away the illusions, to stop dimming your light for the comfort of others. Your destiny cannot be reached in half-truths. The sky will burst with light when you choose to live fully in your authenticity. Sagittarius, remember this. Truth is never your enemy. It is your compass. It is the fire in your chest that refuses to go out. And when you honor it, freedom follows like a faithful companion. Your destiny is too bright to be built on lies. Trust the truth, even when it shakes the ground beneath your feet, for it is clearing the path to your freedom. Gate 3: the sacred fire of resilience and the lessons of challenge. Sagittarius, there is a fire within you that is unlike any other. It is not merely the flame of enthusiasm or the spark of curiosity. It is the sacred fire of resilience. Again and again, life has placed obstacles in your path, tested your endurance, and asked you to rise from ashes you never thought you could survive. And yet you are still here, bow in hand, eyes fixed on the horizon. That resilience is not accidental. It is woven into your destiny. You were never meant to live a life free of challenge, but rather to transform every challenge into wisdom, every wound into strength, every setback into a stepping stone toward the truth of who you are. Consider the seasons in your life when the world seemed to collapse around you. Maybe it was the heartbreak that shattered your trust, the financial loss that left you questioning your worth, or the betrayal that cut you deeper than words can describe. In those moments, you may have felt like the light had abandoned you. Yet somehow, after the tears and the silence, you rose again. And every time you rose, you discovered something new about yourself. Your capacity to endure, your ability to forgive, your strength to keep walking even when the road was unclear. One Sagittarius man I once spoke with had built a thriving business from nothing, pouring years of effort and sacrifice into his dream. Then, a sudden economic downturn swept it all away. For months he was paralyzed by despair, convinced that his life's work had been wasted. But slowly, through the ashes of loss, he began to notice something. The failure had stripped him of false pride, of attachments to appearances, and had returned him to his raw passion for creating. With humility he started again, this time with deeper wisdom and greater authenticity. Within 5 years, his second business flourished beyond anything he had previously imagined. He often said, "Losing everything gave me the freedom to build what was truly mine." That is the essence of Sagittarius resilience. You do not merely survive the fire. You are reborn through it. But resilience is not just about endurance. It is about transformation. Some people endure hardship by shutting down, hardening their hearts, or becoming bitter. But Sagittarius, your soul knows that bitterness is a prison. You are here not to close but to expand even through pain. When you encounter difficulty, the lesson is not to lose faith but to refine it. To remember that your trials are not punishments, but initiations. Every challenge holds a teaching, and when you extract the wisdom, you turn suffering into power. Take the example of a Sagittarius woman in her late 20s who faced the sudden loss of her partner in a tragic accident. Her grief was unbearable, and for a time she thought her own life had ended as well. Yet in her mourning, she began to write letters to her partner, letters she never intended to share, but which helped her pour her heart into words. Over time, those letters transformed into essays, and eventually into a book that helped thousands of others navigating grief. Her greatest heartbreak became the channel for her greatest gift. Through her resilience, she discovered that even in sorrow, her fire could light the way for others. Sagittarius, this is the destiny of your sacred fire. It is never extinguished. Even in the darkest nights, it flickers within you, waiting for the breath of courage to fan it alive again. And each time it burns anew, it illuminates more than just your path. It lights the way for others who are still lost in their shadows. This is why people often look to you for hope, even when you feel like you have none to give. They sense that your spirit has walked through storms and still carries the promise of dawn. Still, resilience requires balance. There is a danger in glorifying struggle, in believing you must always fight or always carry burdens alone. True resilience is not about endless self-sacrifice. It is about knowing when to rest, when to ask for help, and when to surrender. You are strong, yes, but you are not meant to prove your worth through suffering. The lesson of resilience is not to become unbreakable, but to remember that even when you break, you can heal. There is wisdom in surrender, Sagittarius. Sometimes the most resilient act is not pushing harder, but letting go, trusting that the universe has a rhythm, even when you cannot see it. Imagine a bow in your hands. If you pull the string too tightly and never release, the arrow cannot fly. In the same way, resilience asks you to balance effort with release, courage with faith. You are not alone in your journey. The cosmos itself conspires to carry you forward when your strength falters. So what is the challenge before you now? Where is life asking you to rise again? Perhaps it is the courage to face rejection and try once more, the humility to admit a mistake and begin anew, or the faith to keep walking when the destination is still unseen. Wherever you are, trust that your sacred fire has not abandoned you. It has carried you through storms before, and it will carry you again. Your destiny is not written in the absence of struggle, but in your ability to transform struggle into wisdom. When the sky bursts with light, it does not erase the darkness that came before. It honors it, revealing that every shadow was part of your becoming. Sagittarius, your resilience is the bridge between who you were and who you are meant to be. Trust it, honor it, let it burn bright, and know that every trial has been shaping you for the brilliance that is about to unfold. Gate 4: Love, Connection, and the Destiny of the Heart. Sagittarius, no matter how far you travel, no matter how many horizons you chase, there is one truth that always finds its way back to you. Love is the greatest journey of all. For while your spirit thrives in freedom, your heart thrives in connection. Many people misunderstand you, believing that your love of exploration means you resist commitment, that your independence leaves no room for deep intimacy. But this is not the whole story. The truth is that you love with a wild, expansive heart, and you long for a bond that honors both your freedom and your depth. Your destiny is not to choose between love and freedom. It is to find the sacred balance where love itself becomes freedom. Love for you is not about cages or chains. It is not about someone clipping your wings to keep you close. It is about someone who looks at your wings and says, "Fly and I will fly with you." Your ideal partner is not the one who demands you stay, but the one who dares to journey beside you, through change, through growth, through the unfolding of destiny itself. And when you find this kind of love, it ignites your spirit like no other force in the universe. It gives you not only companionship but also a mirror, reflecting back to you the truths you sometimes forget about yourself. Yet the path to such love is rarely simple. Many Sagittarians experience heartbreaks in their search because they cannot settle for half measures. They may try to conform, to stay in relationships that offer comfort but not expansion, but inevitably their spirit grows restless. This restlessness is not disloyalty. It is the soul's cry for authenticity. The moment you realize that love has turned into limitation, you feel the fire dimming, and you know it is time to choose differently. One Sagittarius woman in her 30s once shared with me her story. She had married young, choosing a partner who offered stability but little emotional depth. For years, she silenced her dissatisfaction, telling herself she should be grateful. But the longer she stayed, the more she felt like she was disappearing. One day, she admitted to herself, "I cannot sacrifice my soul for safety." It was one of the hardest choices of her life, but she ended the marriage. In the years that followed, she traveled, studied, healed, and grew. Eventually, she met a partner who celebrated her curiosity, who stood beside her not as a cage but as a fellow explorer. Together, they built a love that was both grounding and liberating. Her story reminds us that Sagittarius destiny is never about settling. It is about holding out for love that expands you, not confines you. But love is not only about romance. Your destiny also includes the connections you build with friends, mentors, family, and even strangers along the way. Relationships are the firewood that fuels your sacred flame. You thrive when surrounded by people who inspire, challenge, and uplift you. And because of your natural optimism and honesty, you have a gift for inspiring others in return. There are countless souls who have been changed simply because you crossed their path, shared your laughter, or spoke a truth they needed to hear. This too is love, the way your energy lights up others without you even trying. Still, Sagittarius, love also challenges you. It asks you to slow down, to listen, to stay present even when your spirit longs for the next adventure. It asks you to practice patience, to honor another's pace, to remember that not every journey is meant to be rushed. These lessons can feel uncomfortable for you, but they are essential. For in learning to love deeply, you discover that expansion is not only about distance traveled, but about depth embraced. Sometimes the greatest adventure is not in the mountains or oceans, but in the courage to truly open your heart to another. I recall the story of a Sagittarius man in his 50s who had spent most of his life chasing experiences across the globe. He had seen wonders, met extraordinary people, and lived a life full of stories. Yet in his later years, he admitted that his most profound journey was learning to love his partner of 20 years. "All the mountains I climbed were nothing compared to the mountain of learning to be vulnerable," he confessed. "That is where I found my true freedom." His story is a testament to the Sagittarius truth. Love does not diminish your spirit, it magnifies it. At its highest expression, love is the destiny of your heart. It is the place where your longing for freedom and your longing for connection meet. Not in conflict but in harmony. When you find it, you realize that love is not a weight that pulls you down but a wind that lifts your wings higher. It teaches you that the greatest journey is not outward but inward, into the depths of your own heart, where the light of the cosmos already burns. Sagittarius, if there is one truth the universe wants you to embrace now, it is this. You do not have to choose between being free and being loved. The right love will honor your freedom, and your freedom will make your love even richer. Trust this. Do not settle for cages disguised as comfort. Do not silence your heart's call for authenticity. The sky is bursting with light, and within that light is the promise of a love that expands you into your fullest destiny. Conclusion: the horizon awaits. Sagittarius, your journey through expansion, truth, resilience, and love is not random. It is the very architecture of your destiny. Each gate you have walked through has been preparing you for this moment, when the sky itself bursts with light to remind you that you are not wandering aimlessly. You are walking a path written in the stars, guided by the fire in your spirit, and the wisdom carved from every trial. You are the archer, bow steady, eyes fixed on the horizon. Expansion calls you to leap, truth calls you to live authentically, resilience calls you to rise from ashes, and love calls you to open your heart fully. Together, these form the compass of your destiny. No matter how many times you've doubted, No matter how many times you've stumbled, the universe has never stopped believing in your light. And now that light is breaking through, scattering the shadows and illuminating the path ahead. As you stand at this threshold, remember that destiny is not a faraway dream. It is the choices you make today, the courage you claim in this moment, the love you allow yourself to embrace. You were never meant to play small. You were never meant to remain hidden. You were born to blaze. So breathe in the light, Sagittarius. Let it fill your chest with fire. Let it remind you that every step forward, no matter how uncertain, is sacred. And if these words resonate with your heart, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe, so together, we can keep journeying through the stars, finding wisdom, healing, and courage in every constellation. Your destiny is not just waiting. It is rising, right now, in brilliance that cannot be contained.